You're listening to Procurement 6, the weekly podcast from the team at Art of Procurement that summarizes this week in procurement in just 6 short segments.
Hi there, I'm Philip Eidson, founder and managing director at Art of Procurement, and today is Friday, June 2nd, 2023.
6.
Do you know where the skill gaps are in your procurement team? As procurement continues to evolve quickly, we continue to hear procurement leaders talk about the skill gap that they sometimes struggle to fill. But quantifying that gap, however, can provide more difficult. So today's tip of the week is relevant for teams really of all sizes. To future-proof your procurement organization, ensure that you have a capability framework in place. A capability framework is a list of 7 to 10 procurement skills, such as sourcing, category management, innovation, relationship management, and digital literacy, that demonstrates the skills that you need to continue to grow your team. Within that framework, build in 4 different levels: beginner, intermediate, advanced, and expert, and stipulate what good looks like for each level. Finally, map that framework to each job type. This provides you and your team with an easy guide as to what is required for their current job and their aspirational next role, and bonus points for then assessing the team against this framework to find out where the real gaps exist and to show what you need to prioritize closure.
5.
In this week's episode of the Art of Procurement podcast, I spoke with Florian Tufan, the co-founder and CEO of firmographic data company Veridian. In this conversation, we explored both Florian and I's journey to better understand the impact that AI will have on procurement. But rather than focus on that journey specifically, I actually asked as one of my questions to Florian to explain why the explosion in AI topics since the launch of ChatGPT. And this is a longer segment than I usually share, but it was particularly insightful for me.
A few years ago, there was a shift in how people built AI, machine learning, and anything that's in between. In any way in which the computer finds a pattern and finds a way by itself, and you just teach it to find ways. There was a major shift enabled by Google at first to a technology called transformers. The premise behind transformers is really simple. It's a model that makes assumptions. At the most basic level, it's applied inside a sentence. And it says, I think this word will go well, but I also think these other 4 words will go well here.
Yeah.
And then it does this with itself. It knows what the sentence is, hides one word from it, and says, I think this would make sense here. And then it looks and says, oh, I was wrong. And that corrects the pattern it's finding at the most basic levels. And then you take it at the sentence level. And then if you find a way, what's happened recently, to turn everything into sentences. So if you look at an image, it's just a set of pixels colored differently. Those pixels you can translate into color codes, and then it looks more like a sentence.
Yeah.
So that's how we generate images today at a much larger scale, but it's pixel by pixel, what pixel makes sense here. And then it learns and it corrects itself. And this has been around for a while. We've been using transformers since the beginning of our company 4.5 years ago. The difference is that everybody learned how to translate everything into transformers. So images, sounds, soon videos. And instead of people working on 5 different AI/ML technologies with different patterns and ways of working behind them, now everybody is working on the same thing. So what's actually marginal improvement, it happens in 1,000 places at once, so it looks like a volcanic eruption.
Interesting.
That's on the argument on the marginal improvement. Now the second one is true as well, because what the OpenAI did, we all understood how transformer-based models, they build a hypothesis, look around them, try to find proof, and if they're wrong, they will correct the underlying assumption, better assumptions in the future. This is how we learn as well, right? What they proved and nobody thought was possible is at some point, if you put enough compute and enough data in a model, and you show it a simple equation, it will try to figure out all the possible answers, and if it needs, it will learn maths in order to solve that equation. And you can force a model, give it enough compute, give it enough data, just to find x, the value of x in an equation. It will learn maths because that's the simplest way in which they can reliably find the answer. And that was considered to be impossible. And it turns out it can do things at a much greater scale than we all thought.
4.
This week on the blog, we spoke with marketing and branding expert Catherine McCleary, who also led our rebranding here at Art of Procurement, about the ways that procurement can leverage branding best practices to build a strong internal perception of the procurement team, their function, and the value that they bring to stakeholders and to the business. So here are the top 6 ways to launch a successful procurement rebrand. 1 is ask for feedback. 2, establish or re-establish trust with your stakeholders. 3, apply a customer-centric mindset. 4, align voice, tone, and values with the organization. I think this one is often missed. 5, communicate procurement's impact. And 6, use brand evangelists wisely. Now you can check out the blog, which is linked in today's show notes, for more insights into why Catherine chose those 6 elements.
This is Procurement 6 from Art of Procurement. To get notified every time an episode is published, go to artofprocurement.com/subscribe. 3.
We've been working recently to shine a light onto should-cost analysis with Yashiro Kato from Caddy, and this week Kelly and I interviewed Yashiro on our most recent manufacturing industry webinar. Now, anyone who has used should-cost models before has no doubt got plenty of stories to tell about when they lead to confrontation or silence rather than collaboration with your suppliers, and I certainly have that from my experience in this space. Now, Yashiro provided 2 pieces of advice that I think are particularly important to remember. First, the best use of should-cost analysis is to drive conversation around costs, and costs being really important, not price. And 2, in that spirit, agree with your supplier upfront the golden principle that should-cost analysis will not be used to squeeze their margins.
2.
Earlier this week, Ford and Tesla announced a partnership where Ford drivers will be able to use Tesla's supercharging network across North America. It's a network of 12,000 fast-charging electric vehicle stations around North America, with 45,000 around the world. Now, at face value, it may look like Tesla is suddenly empowering a direct competitor. However, I'm guessing that Tesla's bet is that their supercharging network is their killer app. The network becomes a platform and their true long-term competitive advantage. However, the reason I found interest in this story is that it's another signal that more and more companies will end up having supplier, provider, partner, and competitor relationships with the same company. I've observed this in some spaces, and to be honest, procurement really struggles to understand what to do with this. Traditional approaches typically don't work, and we're told in no uncertain circumstances by other parts of the business not to damage those relationships. So this is definitely a topic for us to explore further at Art of Procurement. So I'd love for you to contact us at the usual places if you have any guidance or views or success stories to share.
1.
Coming up on June 13th is our first ever event dedicated to direct procurement called AOP Direct. We're going to explore topics such as finding cost savings with incumbent suppliers, how AI defines a new paradigm for supply discovery, scaling should-cost analysis for direct tail spend, and driving sustainability through direct materials. We'll be touching on that and more through this event, which is going to take place on June the 13th, and you can join almost 300 of your peers already registered by going to artofprocurement.com/AOPdirect23. That's all one word. That's artofprocurement.com/AOPdirect23. And if you register but cannot attend on the day, all of the videos will be available to watch again for confirmed registrants. And finally, as always with our virtual events, it's free to register.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Friday at 6 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. If you've enjoyed this pod, help us grow and tell your peers to search for Procurement 6 wherever they get their podcasts.